Sophie experiences a moment of unexpected transformation after a gesture of kindness. Among challenges, significant encounters, and the magic of books, her journey promises to rewrite destinies and rekindle hopes. Discover how a simple act can transform lives and unite a community in search of a new beginning. Sophie adjusted her vintage-framed glasses on her face as she organized the children's section of the public library. At 33 years old, with wavy brown hair tied in a casual bun and a shy smile on her lips, she emanated a serene aura that naturally attracted children to the magical world of books. "Aunt Sophie, can you help me find a book about dragons?" asked a little girl with braids, her eyes shining with anticipation. "Of course, dear. Let's see what we have here," Sophie replied enthusiastically, guiding the girl through the colourful shelves. As she assisted the young reader, Sophie couldn't help but think of her own son, Ethan, who was 9 years old. She imagined him at home, probably immersed in his own adventure books. As a single mother, Sophie always strived to balance her passion for work with her maternal responsibilities. At the end of the day, Sophie packed her bag, said goodbye to her colleagues, and hurried out to pick up Ethan from school. The way there was short, passing through a tree-lined park that, on that autumn afternoon, displayed a palette of warm colours in its foliage. "How was your day, dear?" she asked, hugging her son. Ethan, with his messy dark hair and freckles on his nose, grinned widely. "It was amazing, Mum. Today in science class we did an experiment with baking soda volcanoes." Sophie laughed, delighted with her son's enthusiasm. "That sounds like a lot of fun. How about you tell me all about it while we prepare dinner?" At home, a small but cosy apartment, the walls were lined with shelves filled with books. Sophie and Ethan moved around the compact kitchen in a synchronized dance, preparing a simple meal while excitedly talking about their days. Later, sitting on the worn yet comfortable sofa, Sophie read aloud to Ethan, as they did every night. It was a ritual they both loved, a moment of connection and shared imagination. "Mum," Ethan said sleepily, "when I grow up I want to be a writer like the authors of the books you read to me." Sophie kissed her son's forehead, her heart overflowing with love and pride. "You can be whatever you want, my love. The important thing is to follow your dreams with passion and determination." The next morning, Sophie arrived at the library a little earlier than usual. She enjoyed those quiet moments before opening, when she could organize her thoughts and plan the day's activities. While arranging some returned books, she noticed through the window a man sitting on a bench in the park across from the library. He looked tired and worn out, his clothes shabby and a battered backpack by his side. Sophie recognized him as one of the occasional library visitors who would come in to warm up on colder days. When lunchtime came, Sophie took her lunchbox and, in a moment of compassion, decided to share it with the man. She left the library and approached him with a gentle smile. "Hello. I thought you might like to share my lunch," she offered. The man looked at her, surprised and a little suspicious at first, but soon his face softened. "Are you sure? I don't want to be a bother." "Absolutely no bother," Sophie assured, sitting down beside him. "In fact, I would love some company." As they shared the simple meal, Sophie noticed the man's eyes turning towards the library. "Do you like to read?" she asked. "I've always liked it," he replied with a touch of nostalgia in his voice. "But it's been so long." Sophie smiled, an idea forming in her mind. "Wait a moment," she said, getting up and quickly going into the library. She returned a few minutes later with a book in her hands. "This is one of my favourites," she explained, handing the book to the man. "It's a story about second chances and the strength of the human spirit. I thought you might like it." The man picked up the book carefully, as if it were something precious. I don't know what to say, thank you," he murmured, moved. Sophie was about to respond when she heard an authoritative voice behind her. "Miss Thompson, may I speak with you for a moment?" It was the library director, Mrs. Harriet Jenkins, a middle-aged woman with a stern demeanour and half-moon glasses. Sophie felt a chill in her stomach, but maintained her composure as she bade farewell to the man and followed the director back inside. In Mrs. Jenkins' office, Sophie faced a look of disapproval. "Miss Thompson, may I know what exactly you were doing?" Sophie took a deep breath before responding. "I was just sharing my lunch and offering a book to someone who seemed to need a little kindness." Mrs. Jenkins frowned. "And the book you offered, is it properly registered for loan?" Sophie hesitated. "Well, not exactly, but—" "Miss Thompson," the principal interrupted, "I'm afraid your actions demonstrate a serious lapse in judgment. Using library resources for personal purposes is unacceptable. I'm sorry, but I have no choice but to terminate your contract effective immediately." The words hit Sophie like a punch in the stomach. "But Mrs. Jenkins, please, I love this job. It was just an act of kindness." "Rules exist for a reason, Miss Thompson. Please clear your desk and hand in your badge before you leave." Sophie left the office dazed, tears threatening to fall from her eyes. As she packed her things, frantic thoughts raced through her mind. How would she explain this to Ethan? How would they pay the bills? As she left the library for the last time, Sophie looked at the park bench. The man was gone, but the book she had given him was carefully placed on the bench, as if waiting for her. Sophie picked it up, clutching it to her chest as she walked home, trying to gather the courage to face what was to come. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Sophie. She struggled to maintain an appearance of normalcy in front of Ethan, hiding her worries behind forced smiles and tighter hugs than usual. At night, after Ethan fell asleep, she spent hours reviewing her resume and searching for new jobs online, the fear of an uncertain future weighing heavily on her shoulders. One morning, while walking Ethan to school, they passed by the local park. Sophie noticed a group of children playing, some with books in hand, others running and laughing. An idea began to form in her mind. "Ethan," she said, stopping for a moment, "what do you think about starting a reading club here in the park?" Ethan's eyes lit up. "Really, Mum? That would be amazing." Her son's enthusiasm was contagious, and Sophie felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. "Let's make it happen then." In the following days, Sophie and Ethan worked together to bring the idea to life. Ethan, with his youthful creativity, made colourful posters announcing the Enchanted Park Reading Club. Sophie used her savings to buy some used books and art supplies. On the first day of the club, Sophie was nervous but determined. To her surprise and joy, several children showed up, some accompanied by curious parents. Sitting in a circle on the grass, Sophie began to read aloud, her voice gaining confidence as the children leaned forward, engrossed in the story. It was during one of these sessions that Sophie noticed a man watching the group from a distance, a curly-haired girl by his side. After the reading, while the children were drawing scenes from the story, the man approached. "Hello," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Jack and this is my daughter Emma. We just moved to the city and were delighted by what we saw here." Sophie introduced herself, briefly explaining about the reading club. Jack listened with genuine interest, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "You know," he said, "I'm a university literature professor. I've been thinking of ways to get more involved with the local community. Maybe we could collaborate on something." Jack's proposal ignited a new flame of possibilities in Sophie's mind. In the days that followed, they met several times, exchanging ideas and developing plans to expand the reach of the reading club. Jack suggested the creation of street libraries, small shelves installed at strategic points in the city, where people could freely take and leave books. Sophie loved the idea, seeing it as a way to bring the magic of reading beyond the park's boundaries. With Jack's help and growing community support, the project quickly came to life. Volunteers offered to build the shelves while others donated books. Sophie and Jack organised reading events in different neighbourhoods, attracting people of all ages and backgrounds. Meanwhile, a friendship blossomed between Ethan and Emma. The children became inseparable, bonded by their shared love for books and adventures. Sophie often found them whispering about the stories they had read or inventing their own fantastic tales. As the months passed, Sophie was amazed at how far they had come. What had started as a desperate response to losing her job had turned into something much bigger and more meaningful. She saw the difference they were making in people's lives, children discovering the joy of reading, adults reconnecting with long-forgotten stories. One afternoon, as Sophie and Jack were working on plans for a storytelling festival, she noticed something different in his eyes. There was a softness, a tenderness that made her heart race. "Sophie," Jack said, his voice gentle, "I want you to know how much I admire what you've done here. Your passion, your resilience. It's inspiring." Sophie felt her cheeks flush. "Thank you, Jack. But none of this would have been possible without you and the support of the entire community." "Maybe," he smiled, "but you were the one who planted the seed." "And speaking of seeds," Jack paused, suddenly looking nervous. "I was thinking, maybe we could have dinner together sometime. Just the two of us." Sophie's heart skipped a beat. She realized that amidst all the chaos and uncertainty of the past few months, something beautiful and unexpected had blossomed. "I would love to," she replied, a genuine smile lighting up her face. Almost a year after her dismissal from the library, Sophie received a call that would change everything again. It was the mayor of the city inviting her to a meeting. Intrigued and a little apprehensive, Sophie attended the meeting, where she was surprised by an unexpected proposal. "Sophie," said the mayor, "the impact of your work with street libraries and reading programs has not gone unnoticed. We are planning to open a new community learning centre, and we would like you to lead it." Sophie was speechless for a moment, moved by the opportunity. The centre, the mayor explained, would combine a modern library with spaces for educational programs, becoming a hub of knowledge and inclusion for the entire community. In the months that followed, Sophie worked tirelessly to bring the new centre to life. She incorporated elements from her previous projects, creating welcoming spaces for readers of all ages and backgrounds. The centre quickly became a model of innovation and accessibility, attracting attention and praise from other cities. On a sunny afternoon, Sophie was arranging the final details for the grand opening when she noticed a familiar figure entering the centre. It was the man from the park, the one to whom she had offered her lunch and a book on that fateful day. He looked different now, healthier, more confident. "Hello," he said, approaching with a shy smile. "I don't know if you remember me." "Of course I remember," Sophie replied warmly. "How are you?" The man looked around, admiring the space. "I'm much better, thanks to people like you. That book you gave me, it inspired me to start over. I got a job, I'm back to studying." Sophie felt tears of emotion forming in her eyes. "I'm so happy to hear that," she said, genuinely touched. "Actually," the man continued, "I came to volunteer. I want to give back, help others as I was helped." At that moment, Sophie felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She recalled a verse her grandmother used to quote, "Instruct the wise and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous and they will add to their learning." Proverbs 9:9. She realized that this was the true power of books and education, not just to impart knowledge but to inspire change and create connections. On the opening day, Sophie was radiant. Beside her were Jack, Ethan, and Emma, now a family united not only by their love of books, but also by their love for each other. The community gathered to celebrate, and Sophie saw familiar faces everywhere: volunteers, avid readers, children eager to explore the new space. As she gave her opening speech, Sophie reflected on the journey that had brought her there. A simple act of kindness, followed by a personal challenge, had sparked a wave of positive changes she could never have imagined. "This centre," she said, her voice full of emotion, "is more than just a place for books. It is a space where dreams can grow, where stories can transform lives, and where our community can come together and flourish." Looking at the crowd, Sophie saw hope, inspiration, and infinite possibilities. She knew this was just the first page of a new chapter, not only in her life but in the life of the entire community. and she was eager to see how the story would unfold. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.